Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Girl Chat Sports. We are on episode 34. My name is Melissa. I will be your host today. I'm all alone in the studio. Well, in where we record. Our girl Swash, Stephanie Washington, is not here to make with us today, so it'll be just me. However, I do have a great interview coming up with Cecelia Townes. Me and her chat up a bunch of stuff in regards to her blog, thegladiators.com, in regards to livebeyondthegame.com, just a bunch of awesome things, and also with the upcoming Peach Bowl, her Alabama Crimson Tide versus my Huskies. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, just want to give you a little housekeeping notes. Me and Steph are going to take the next couple weeks off for the holidays. So we wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. I've got some travel. I'll be in Seattle for Christmas, and I'm going to the Seahawks game versus the Cardinals there, as well as I will be in San Francisco for New Year's Eve for the Seahawks versus Winers game there, and hoping to find a good Husky bar to watch the Peach Bowl from when I land on Saturday, New Year's Eve. So with that being said, into a little news. It's funny that Stephanie isn't here for the one game that her team loses. Well, I guess it's the second game, but the one team that can't seem to that seems to have the Cowboys number. So we all noticed that the Cowboys lost to the Giants 10-7, snapping their 11-game win streak. Of course, I was smiling ear to ear, and of course, I was a Giants fan the entire game. They are the only team to beat the Cowboys this year. They just have their number. It's kind of like how the Rams have the Seahawks number, I guess. Who knows? So Odell Beckham had caught like a 94-yard touchdown. Darren McFadden actually got signed back onto the 53-man roster for the Cowboys, so that should be interesting. One thing that I thought was interesting, this whole Jerry Jones, Jason Garrett thing, no matter what, I mean, literally it took me until maybe a couple years ago to realize that Jerry Jones wasn't their coach. Not to say I didn't know that Jerry Jones was the owner, but whenever you hear about the Cowboys, whenever you hear the interviews, it's always Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones says this, Jerry Jones says that. It's never Jason Garrett. It seems like he doesn't really speak up much, and that's fine. But there has been some clash of opinion in regards to Tony Romo's return. Jerry Jones had a couple quotes in regards to, well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe Tony comes back or not. Versus Jason Garrett is like, Dak's it. Like, this is it. It's Dak's team. So kind of interesting how that was. It was nice that Jason kind of checked Jerry a little bit. But enough of the Cowboys. I guess I can say that since Steph isn't here, huh? So she'll probably listen to it and be like, ah. So the Seahawks. So it wasn't just the Cowboys lost. It was the Seahawks. And the Seahawks lost bad. I was so amazed at how terrible we played in Green Bay. I don't know if this was like payback for us beating the crap out of the Panthers last weekend, but we got our butts handed to us. The Seahawks have not lost a game by more than 10 points in 85 games. 85 games. That's like 2010. So it's the worst loss we've had since 2010, and it's the first time that Russell Wilson has thrown 5 interceptions, and it's the first time the Packers have had 5 interceptions in one game themselves since 2005, which is crazy. Like I said, it was a terrible, terrible game. We look bad all around. I don't know if it was just the cold. You would think they would have been used to it. We've played in frigid weather before. We played in the Vikings game that one year when they missed the kick, and that was ridiculous. I mean, we played in frigid weather, so it wasn't like the weather should have been an issue. However, maybe it was. It was just crazy. Other Seahawks news. So we're going to be playing the Rams at home tomorrow for Thursday Night Football. So interesting note on Thursday Night Football, Richard Sherman seems to have a lot of opinion on that. He believes that the NFL needs to discontinue Thursday games because it's just a poop fest. I don't know if that's coming from him having just lost big and having to now go ahead and play another game in 4 days, or if he really means it. But I think we've discussed this before on the podcast in regards to Thursday night games, how they seem to have a mixed opinion. I know for me, I seem to get a lot less done in the week when I have to watch football, and I have to. It's a requirement. My body has to. On Thursday, Sunday, Monday, and then, of course, college on Saturday. So I really don't get too much done. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind if there was 2 Monday night games. I wouldn't mind if there was just an extra game on Sunday. I'm fine with that because thanks to DirecTV and the Sunday Ticket, I get to watch all the games all the time. NFL, and also on NFL Mobile because I'm a Verizon customer. So big plugs for those guys. Hopefully one day they can give it to me for free. In other news, fantasy football wise, I suck this year. All of my drafts turned out to be crappy. All the players that got injured that first or second game are coming back for the 14th and 15th game, which really doesn't matter because I'm already lost. And I've had bad waiver wires. But my one highlight of my fantasy is Le'Veon Bell. Man, this guy, when I tell you he had over 300 rushing yards, I mean, it was insane. This guy was doing touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. It was amazing. And all I can say is that he scored me like 40-some points in fantasy in one of my leagues, which is the one league that kept me from getting the sack plaque. So I know you guys have listened before. My guys' league, we have a championship belt, and then the loser gets their name engraved on a plaque that has bronze sack on it. So we call it the sack plaque. Yeah, those kind of sacks, like the sack, a man's sack. Yeah. Anyways, TMI. But I won't have my name on that this year. Thank God. It's going to end up being somebody else. Ha ha ha. It will. Anyways, so fantasy is just a big boo-hoo. Melvin Gordon got carted off the field in the first quarter of the Chargers-Panthers game. He is another running back that I had, and within the first quarter, he was off and not returning. So his return and his status is unknown. D'Angelo Williams from Pittsburgh didn't play this weekend as well. There was just a bunch of other ones. Julio Jones got inactive. He was inactive at the very last minute. Ryan Tannehill got injured during the game. He's not going to possibly be coming back because he sprained his MCL or ACL. Matt Stafford has dislocation in his middle finger. He's going to have to wear a glove for the rest of the season, so who knows how that's going to affect him in his play. Me personally, as a Seahawks fan, I hope that it does affect his play because I can't have the Lions taking that second seed in the NFC. Period. That's for us. Okay? In other NFL news, Jeff Fisher got the fire. He got fired just one day after he tied the record for most career losses, which he tied with Dan Reeves. 165 losses in the NFL over a 22-year span. Yeah. That's not something to be proud of. And I know right now our friend Palmer Alexander with In the Zone show is just laughing his ass off and has been probably for the last 3 days because of it. Because we all know how much he loves those Rams. In other news, there's going to be London games in 2017, and those games have been determined, which will be the Ravens and Jaguars, the Saints and Dolphins, Vikings and Browns, Cardinals and Rams. I'm not sure who picks them, but they seem to pick mediocre teams. You don't see the Cowboys going, the Seahawks aren't going, the Broncos aren't going, the Patriots aren't going. So I'm guessing, as long as you're on that mid-tier NFL team, I guess maybe that gives your ticket out into a different country. So should be interesting. Mr. Tom Brady. Man, these guys almost lost to the Ravens. I was so excited. I was like, yes, they came back from behind, scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and a field goal. I mean, they were so close. And then Tom Brady throws a 79-yard touchdown to Chris Hogan, basically cementing in their win, 30-23. He's the 4th player in history to reach this mark, having 450 career touchdowns. Jesus, isn't he old enough yet? I was literally watching or listening to a pregame interview with Joe Flacco, and he was talking about how when he was in high school, he was watching Tom Brady. Here's the deal. I thought Joe Flacco was pretty old. I thought he'd been in the league for a while, and I think he has, but the fact that he even was in high school when Tom Brady was playing is amazing. Tom Brady, just go. Just bye. Leave. We don't want you anymore. Well, just not Seahawks fans and probably half the rest of the NFL, so... that's enough for NFL news. One last thing, the Raiders to Las Vegas. So Ronnie Lott and his investment group is really pushing to try and keep the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. Their county and their commission has approved for them to continue these talks and trying to keep them there. Trying to do a $1.3 billion stadium. We'll see how it goes. It sounds like Roger Goodell believes that there's no real long-term plan in what they're proposing, as with the Chargers. He doesn't seem to feel like it's going to be situation that works out in the end. I, for one, hope not, because I would love to see a football team here in Las Vegas. So we will keep you posted on that. The NFL has to vote on that in January sometime, and they have to get like 24 to 32 teams to vote for it. So we shall see how that goes. It'll be interesting, though, and hopefully something comes out of it more than what San Diego's doing. They are scrambling to save their charges. Boy, they're offering a $1 a year lease on Qualcomm while they work on a new stadium. That stadium is so shitty, I wouldn't even pay $1 to play there. But I don't play and I don't pay there. So anywho, that's about it. Thing about the Raiders too is that they actually, I heard, still owe money on their current stadium, which is also shitty. So interesting how you want to propose a $1.3 billion proposal for a new stadium, but you still owe on the other one. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. So college football is off right now. Of course, we're just waiting for those bowl games to catch up. We'll talk with our guest in a little bit in regards to that big Peach Bowl game that I'm waiting on. We've got the Fiesta Bowl as well with Ohio State and Clemson, Orange Bowl, Michigan and Florida, Cotton Bowl, Wisconsin and West Michigan, the Rose Bowl, Penn State and USC. This weekend in Las Vegas, though, we have the Las Vegas Bowl. San Diego State and Houston will be here, which should be interesting. Those are some pretty good teams that'll be playing out here, so we're excited to bring some college football and some bowl game to Las Vegas. I did actually go see the Las Vegas Bowl when the Huskies were in it probably about 4 or 5 years ago when my dad was here. That was pretty amazing too. Other college news: Alabama's offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin. He agrees to become Florida Atlantic's next head coach. He took about a $400,000 pay cut too, so he definitely wants to get back in the lead rings of things in regards to coaching. I guess, it was his time. He kind of has had a rocky road, I guess you could say, of sorts, coaching for the Trojans, the Raiders, which he was the youngest NFL coach in history, and also coach of University of Tennessee, and also back to the Trojans again as head coach. So all those he wasn't doing so great at, but he's been doing good for Alabama under Nick Saban, so perhaps he's learned something. We shall see, but he is now done. He says that he will continue to coach through the Peach Bowl or through college playoffs, though. And also, Heisman winner Lamar Jackson, quarterback for Louisville. He's only a sophomore, and he got the Heisman. He's also the AP Player of the Year as well, which is interesting. So congratulations to him. He had a great story about him and his mom and the support she's provided her. So that was really great to hear. Funny thing is that he's also eligible, of course, to be nominated for the Heisman next year. The last player that had that happen to him was Tim Tebow. Well, we know where that went. So good luck to Lamar Jackson. And a big shout out and congratulations to the Seattle Sounders, who beat the Toronto for the MLS Cup title, beating Toronto 5-4 on penalty shootout. I actually watched this game. For all of those of you that know me, I don't watch a lot of soccer, if ever, and I watched this game. They didn't score. Neither team scored for the usual 90-minute game. They had the extra 30 minutes. I guess that's called like their overtime, or it's part of the, I don't know, extra time, whatever. 30 minutes, still no score. Then they go into the penalty shootout, and the Seattle Sounders beat them 5-4. So congratulations to them. They had a great parade in Seattle. I think it was yesterday, if not today, and got on the trolleys and everything, so that was pretty interesting. I think I have a new favorite player. His name is Free, I think it is. He's the goalie for the Sounders. He had an incredible block goal, which saved them into winning this game. So, quick NBA stuff. Russell Westbrook had like 7 games straight triple doubles, which is amazing. His streak actually, though, was broken on Sunday with a win over the Celtics. However, he's not worried about that. He just wants to keep on winning, which is awesome. I actually got to see the Dwayne Wade dropping 28 points against Miami, his former team there in Chicago, when they won 105 to 100 back on Saturday, which was awesome. John Legend will be the headliner for the All-Star Halftime Show, which he's already done before, so interesting. And Lamar Odom checks himself in voluntarily back into rehab, says he wants a fresh start for 2017. Hopefully he's sticking away from the Kardashians, because we all know what happened to Kanye. And anyway, one last quick thing. before I get to our interview and before we take a little commercial break, I thought it was hilarious. There was, we all saw Cam Newton flossing his teeth back on the sidelines last season. Well, there was a great story in regards to Antonio Brown, who's the wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a huge floss addict as well. He loves his teeth. He loves his smile. He's always, I guess, Snapchatting himself flossing, Snapchatting his teeth. So Oral-B reached out to him, and they're going to do a partnership because, I love this is that Antonio Brown wants to be a positive role model for those kids, not just on the field, but also off. And we all know how much kids hate brushing teeth, let alone flossing. So it'll be really great to see maybe their favorite player on their favorite team or someone who they look up to in the NFL actually showing them and teaching them and guiding them into what they should be doing at home as well for hygiene reasons. So shout out to Antonio Brown for that. Anyways, I'm going to get off this real quick. We're going to take a little commercial break and be right back with Cecelia Townes.
Palmer Alexander for the Inner Zone Sports Show. Want to tell you about our sponsor at Gossip Pasta. Now she's at a new location at 291 Chesterfield Mall Food Court. She's open 7 days a week. Make sure you get in on all of the goodness. And don't forget the food is made with a bunch of love. Only at Gossip Pasta. The food's so good, it'll make you say, Shatorta, give it to him, Queen.
Hey, I'm Kiana with Gossip Pastas, and when I'm in the lab, I'm always in the zone.
Hey, and welcome back. So I am here. I'm so excited. We have got Cecelia Townes on the phone, a.k.a. SportyEsquire. She is a former student athlete turned attorney, writer, and entrepreneur. We are very happy to have her on the phone. So there's Cecelia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so glad to have you. I mean, I literally, I'd seen you get do some work with some of our guys over there In the Zone, and I really wanted to look more into you and kind of get you guys on and get you on our show. And I found all of these wonderful websites and businesses and just nonprofits and everything that you've been doing. And I'm just so excited to get the opportunity to talk to you. So I guess we can kind of start. Maybe you can tell us a little about yourself, kind of maybe where you grew up and kind of what got you into sport and which sport you chose.
Okay, so where to begin? I'll start with how I got into sports. My dad was a tennis player all his life, and his dad taught him how to play tennis. And so that's sort of the gift that one of the gifts that my dad gave to my brothers and I. I have two younger brothers. So we started with tennis. I played soccer. I ran track. I played football as a kid.
You did? I love it.
Yeah. And I had to stop. My dad, wouldn't let me, go very far with it. And that's actually how I got into soccer because he was just like, I know you're a tomboy, but I played tennis at Howard University for undergrad.
Wow, okay.
I was a college athlete. And sports have always been a part of my life. I am originally, I feel like I'm originally from two places, from South Carolina and from DC.
Okay.
I'm a kid of a divorced household. So
I'm with you. I've been there too, but my parents lived in the same city, so it worked out that way.
Oh, see, that's so much easier.
Right.
And so I spent half my life in DC and half in South Carolina.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah. So, after I graduated from Howard, I went on to law school, and a lot of people were telling me, "Oh, you should do sports law," and I was just like, "No, I love sports, but I didn't really. It didn't really speak to me initially. I wanted to go into criminal law, and that's what I was focused on. And actually, the recession hit 2009. That's when I graduated. So, people's offers were getting rescinded.
Oh, wow.
And, there were hiring freezes everywhere. And so, I took a job that with DC government, and it was definitely not what I expected. But in that time, because I didn't have to work very, very strenuous hours, I sort of did a lot of reflecting and realized that, I do want to be in sports and sort of worked my way back into it. and it led to me starting my blog, Gladiathers.com, and eventually starting my company, Beyond the Game, which focuses on providing life skills workshops for student athletes.
Awesome. So, quick question in regards to the schooling. What got you? You did your law school at USC, correct?
At UCLA.
Oh, UCLA. Okay. So, what brought? Is it? Did you want to go live in the Cali life for a little bit, or what brought you, I guess, from DC all the way to California to pursue your law degree?
Listen, that whole time in my life, it was pretty interesting. Like reflecting back on the way I made decisions. The way I decided to go to law school is I was going to talk to a professor, and there was a practice exam in the hallway. And I just took the practice exam. It was only like 10 questions. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I can do this. So I never had thought about going to law. This was ridiculous. This is my the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, and this is how I'm thinking. And so that's kind of how I ended up at UCLA. I was like, oh, well, I don't want to be cold in law school. So let me look around and see, a school that has a program I think I like, and that doesn't have cold weather.
Hey, I mean, the things that I think about most about when I look back on college days is like, I knew I always wanted to go to be a Husky and go to UW, and that's why I wasn't a collegiate athlete. If you talk to my brother, he probably would say that I wasn't have any talent, but I did play sports in high school. I just, I never was going to be a D1 athlete, you know what I mean? But I was going to be a Husky. Like that was the only college I was going to apply to. And in hindsight, I kind of wish, I would have gone maybe out of state somewhere to get that kind of experience, because I think you do get more of an experience as a whole on life when you kind of, especially from going from DC to California, is like two different aspects, two different universes.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, and to go back in regards into some of the things that you're into right now. So the Gladiators, kind of discuss that site for us.
Okay. Yeah. So back in 2012. 2013, I just started realizing that I didn't like the way female athletes were really covered. I felt like it was pretty bland, generic, and the coverage would just increase at key times, like, oh, it's the Olympics, like let's talk about female athletes, but nothing significant. And so this was like right before ESPNW even came out, and I decided, well, I'm going to figure out a way to start covering and talking about women in sports the way I would want to read about it. And so that's where the idea of Gladiathers.com, I sort of made a word, trademarked the word Gladiators, and set off to doing it. So, initially my posts were very few and far between and sporadic, but over the last year or so, I've definitely been more intentional about writing, and I've been getting really great feedback, which, motivates me, because it's very hard. Like, I have a full-time job. I've got, Beyond the Game that I'm trying to build, and so, blogging is something that if you're going to build a brand, like, you have to blog consistently. So the fact that people are always, or not always, but people are responding favorably the way we're talking about female athletes is sort of motivation.
That's awesome. And they kind of intertwine something a little bit with that, and then your Live Beyond the Game. I mean, I was so moved by seeing something, because I know friends in college that played and that went on to play in a professional manner that didn't, go very far and really have nothing to show for it. And it's so interesting to read about. So, I mean, tell the audience, I guess, a little bit about what Live Beyond the Game or Beyond the Game is.
Yeah, so Beyond the Game, our website, we're both kind of saying Live Beyond the Game, because that's the website, livebeyondthegame.com. But Beyond the Game is a company that provides life skills workshops for student athletes. So we kind of divide our workshops into three main categories, which are student athletes, rights and wellness, financial literacy, and then personal branding and professionalism. And so, my goal with starting the company was to really empower student athletes to be successful in life after sports, no matter when that point came, right? So the things that we talk about, the activities we do, a person who plays in the NFL eventually is going to be able to find the stuff that we talked about helpful, as is the person who's like me, who, played at a small school and ended up going to law school, and not having a professional sports career, because that was my goal. The vast majority of student athletes don't play professionally. And so we want to sort of bridge the gap between what you get on the field of play and what you get in the classroom and what you're really going to need in real life.
Well, and I think that's excellent because there's so many people that we see. I mean, just let's talk about the professionalism, period. Like, there's so many guys you see now, that I've noticed in interviews after the game, pre-game, that you can tell haven't had that experience, haven't had that guidance, haven't had someone, giving them that public speaking tool yet. So it kind of affects how they're seen in regards to the public eye and public opinion. And we all know that public opinion can make or break you more than the game itself sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I know that was really, and it was interesting to see how the volunteers or the staff that you have for Beyond the Game, they come into these college campuses, they're talking to students that you mentioned, either don't have plans to get any further than collegiate athletes, or are also planning and maybe getting drafted or being a professional career elsewhere, but can get those basics, those things that they may not be taking classes in college. I mean, they don't teach those classes in college. Let's be honest. The student athletes are not getting that kind of thing. I mean, I remember the student athletes that I was friends with in college. I mean, they were getting help on all of their tests. They were getting, extra study sessions. They were getting all these things to help them get through school. And that didn't even cover the basics of what they would have to do in real life, whether it be continuing on. Yeah. So
the thing is, even if your school does offer professional, development stuff, a lot of the student athletes, whether you're at a big D1 or a small D1, you just don't have time. You're taking a full load, you've got practice, you've got games, you've got study hall. There really isn't time. And so I just sort of felt like it's incumbent on the school to provide that for them, carve out time for them to come and get the information they need.
Well, and I think, and we all know, and we don't like to admit it, but there is favoritism for sure within athletics and within even student athletes. And so I think a lot of those times, the star players of the team, they get that coaching because they're the ones that are going to obviously be interviewed. But let's say, you're a redshirt freshman or someone comes out and has this crazy game, they're going to get that interview, and they may have never had that kind of tutoring or that kind of guidance that maybe your all-star running back may have had, or something similar to that sense. So, I mean, being able to touch on those subjects with, the whole spectrum of the athletic world that's out there. I mean, whether it be golf or your tennis or football or basketball. I mean, yeah. So I applaud you on that. I really loved reading about that, and I love learning about it. There was one more, the womentalksports.com. So I know for us here at Girl Chat Sports, we often get, well, is it just women's sports that you talk about? And I kind of laugh because I know it's not politically correct, but I guess, I grew up in, the 80s, 90s. I don't want to age myself, but, I graduated college in 2001. So when I was in middle school and high school, there wasn't a lot of options for us to play. I didn't get to play football. There was no option for me to play football. I got to play softball. I didn't get to play baseball. I mean, I got to play t-ball, but that turned into softball at a certain age. Same with other things like that. Women's basketball, we had to use the women's basketball all throughout playing, and I hated it because the men's basketball I always liked better. It was just a little bit heavier. So you kind of, I know we always get that, so you talk about women's sports, and I'm like, it's not so much that we talk about women's sports. We are women talking about sports. But I know with Women Talk Sports, you guys actually have that platform where you're talking about women within the sports community and the things that they're excelling in.
So, okay, just, I guess for clarity, I don't run Women Talk Sports. And basically what they do is they just take my articles that I've written on Gladiators and they share them on their site. Yeah, so
gotcha.
Nothing that I put on there, there's nothing that I have on Women Talk Sports that isn't on gladiators.com.
Okay, so they share information.
I think that site is really cool in that regard, that, if a woman wants to get on there and talk about the NBA or the NFL, like, that's absolutely safe to do that.
Exactly. Well, I applaud them too for whoever. I'll have to reach out to them. Maybe get them on a show one time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So switching gears a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's tough because I do have opinions about men's sports. Obviously, that's a large part of, my experience as well, growing up watching men play sports. And so sometimes it gets a little tough because I want to write about that on the blog, but I have to, like, sort of stay on brand.
Right.
And so, yeah, I get it. I think it's cool what you guys are doing.
Well, if you ever have something that you want to shout about, you're welcome to give me a call and we'll get you back on to talk about it. So, because I know for me, it's like, I mean, it's hard for me. I do like to talk about women in sports or know more. So, get more involved with it. But for me, watching football or basketball on Sundays, going to Mariners games when I was a kid, it was always just, and it's nothing personal against women. It's just, that's what I was raised into. We weren't raised going to WNBA games because there were none at the time. Had I still lived in Seattle now, I probably would go to a couple Storm games. That wouldn't be an issue. Yeah. But it kind of depends on, like, I would love to be a kid these days. I see these girls that are playing, football. They're, kickers, or they're playing football in Little League, and it can be an interesting topic for some, but it's so nice to be able to see that and see them excelling at things that I would have never been able to do when I was their age.
Absolutely. Yeah. They have such awesome role models too, like you said. Like they can turn on the TV and see a woman playing professional basketball.
Right? And that's so amazing. I mean, that's so amazing. But so changing topics just a little bit. Obviously we are a sports talk podcast. So I kind of reached out to you prior and kind of got a little information in regards to, like, your favorite teams. I guess so. I kind of understand now, after knowing where you grew up, as to your allegiances here, but we've got the DC football team, which I'll have you explain in a second, the Wizards, the Atlanta Dream, University of Kentucky, and South Carolina women's basketball team, as well as Alabama's football team. So we'll start with the DC football team, a.k.a. the Redskins, for all of the people that are listening. Tell me about, I guess, your take on the Redskins or the DC football team.
Yeah, so, I mean, I grew up, like, that's all I knew was DC football because my dad is a lifelong fan. My middle brother is a lifelong fan. So that's all I knew. And so I've always been a fan, but I also, as I got older and sort of just had become more self-aware and had started working at the Department of Interior with, some of the native groups, I was like, like, I can't condone a name that I do believe is quite offensive. And, there's this argument, I wrote a piece about it on Gladiathers, but there's this argument that, it's not offensive to everybody, so, you should chill. And I'm like, well, if it's offensive to somebody, that's enough for me, I don't have to participate in it. And so, I sort of, in the piece that I wrote, I sort of said that I'm financially boycotting them. Like, I haven't been able to just strip myself of my allegiance to the team completely, but, like, I'm not going to spend money on tickets anymore. I'm not going to buy any new jerseys. No new hats. I'm not going to say the name. Just sort of in solidarity for, like, a group of Americans who I already feel like, excuse my French, we have shitted on enough.
Right. I agree. I love the stance, and I wish, hopefully that's something that gets addressed. Now, being from, DC area, do you feel like there's a lot of talk about that, and there still is going to be, like, some kind of change, or?
Well, I mean, I think the talk about it is sort of, it ebbs and flows, right? Certain things will happen, like, they, if I'm not mistaken, they officially have lost, like, the trademark protection, and they're in the appellate court, like, trying to get that back. And so, they initially, when the judge initially ruled against the team, there was talk about it then. In my family, we have a running joke that the team is cursed, and until they change the name, like, we're not we'll never get our Super Bowl. Again, we'll never get our Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think for me and my family, there's kind of constant talk about it, but in general, in DC, I think it, it comes and goes.
Right, gotcha. Well, and speaking of that, I mean, the Super Bowl, yeah, it's been a while, but the thing is, I noticed that your guys' record is 7-5-1. You're one of the teams that has a tie, just like the Seahawks, my team, of course. You know, it's funny, you guys are third in the NFC East right now, obviously behind the Cowboys and the Eagles, but would you have been in my division, the NFC West? You would have been, I mean, you would be second. It's kind of crazy how these divisions rack up, but 7-5-1 is not a terrible record to be mad at. I think, I think Kirk Cousins has done a lot for you guys, and I kind of wanted to get your take on Josh Norman.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give my take on Kirk Cousins. So I'm a Josh Norman fan. I do think, but I understand why people are not fans. I do think that he's super talented, and I think that people are sort of turned off by his swagger, and like he has the swagger, but he's not always consistent. So I feel like, if you're going to carry yourself a certain way, if you're going to talk X, Y, Z, then obviously people are going to want you to perform every Sunday or every Monday, So I do think, I don't think that he was a waste of money for us.
Oh, no. I love Josh Norman. I loved him for the Panthers. I think the Panthers really screwed up by letting him go. I think he does have a mouthpiece, but of course, we have Sherman. I can't get mad at him for the same things that Sherman does, But yeah, I think he's great. And I know, you're welcome to speak about Kirk Cousins. I just feel like, RG3, you must have been ecstatic when you saw him get injured and right off the bat again for the Browns, because it was like, that was just your guys' issue waiting to happen again. How'd you kept him?
Well, yeah, okay, so I was an RG3 fan. I felt like he just didn't get a fair shake in our city. Like, I feel like the coaching decisions surrounding him and letting him get back into play so easily, so quickly, it was really a disservice to him. So I feel like I wasn't happy that he got hurt. I was very disappointed that it didn't work out in DC, and I think that part of the reason it didn't work out was just the way some management decisions went. But as far as Kirk Cousins, even last year, I was upset because I was like, the guy is not our savior. Like, I still feel like I'm not willing to put the team on this guy's back. Like, he has been winning for us. And but I'm just not sold. Honestly, I'm not sold on the Kirk Cousins train.
Right.
I do hope that he proves me wrong. I hope that he proves me wrong. But I just feel like he's pretty inconsistent. He doesn't always make sound decisions.
I believe that. I think it would be helpful if he had a little more targets. With Reed kind of being in and out, and then sounds like Deshaun Jackson kind of wants to be gone too. I don't know if that trade or him leaving is going to happen as well, but it should be interesting for you guys. You guys definitely have been doing better, let's say, than in history, so that's good.
Right, better.
So we'll switch gears a little bit more. So the Wizards are your basketball team.
Yep.
And I'm happy about that. I'm not a Wizards hater. I'm a Laker hater.
Okay.
And since my favorite Michael Jordan was part of the team for a couple years, I still have a Wizards jersey that I own, a little throwback. And then you also mentioned the Atlanta Dream. So I know Atlanta wasn't one of those places that you grew up. So I don't know as to how the Dream became a team of yours.
Yeah, I moved to Atlanta going on 3 years ago in February, and since moving here, I've just been able to focus more on the WNBA, and they're pretty good about community engagement.
Oh,
and
wow.
So you're able to go to events and meet the players, and you're able to meet people in the front office. And so that is sort of really what has attracted me to the Dream.
Good deal.
And that's pretty much the only Atlanta team I root for.
I was going to say, I hope it's not the Falcons, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got Kentucky, your guys' basketball team. They're actually doing really well. I mean, Kentucky's always does well. I mean, they're always like top 10 every year, it seems like. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And Kentucky by way of...
by way of Kirby Smith. So my college team, so, I like Alabama, and I'm sure we'll talk about that now.
Yes.
And I'm a big fan of Kentucky. When I was growing up, during the period of time when I was, paying attention to college basketball, Kirby Smith was the man to me. For whatever reason, as a child, I don't know if it's because he was a man of color and he was, coaching a huge basketball program.
Right.
But I felt like, he was a class act, and he still is to me. And so that's how I fell in love with Kentucky. And now I really like Tyler Harris. People aren't always necessarily fans of his.
Sure.
But in this whole one-and-done atmosphere of college basketball, I really feel like he has a really great perspective, for a lot of these kids. He might not always do things by NCAA standards.
Hey, whatever, right?
Exactly. So that's how I came to root for Kentucky.
Okay. What's funny is I actually looked at some of the players that had come out of Kentucky, and little did I know Pat Riley went to Kentucky.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Right. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, granted, it was before my time, but I was like, Pat Riley went to Kentucky? So, yeah, other than that. Right. So, also, other names that were stood out to me, like Rajon Rondo was at Kentucky, Antoine Walker, and Jamal Mashburn. That kind of shows you my 90s NBA that I'm a fan of. But so, let's just get down to it. Okay. You live in Atlanta now, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is coming to Atlanta New Year's Eve, January 31st, and we've got your Alabama and my Washington Huskies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Alabama? How long have you been an Alabama fan? Let's start with that. Was that bred into you too? I mean, it seems like you're not part of that whole Southern, well, I guess, I don't know, South Carolina counts as Alabama fans or not. I don't know how they work out there, but was it bred into you to be Alabama or?
I really became a fan of the SEC when I went to law school. When I was in undergrad, when I was in high school, as far as football went, I was full for Clemson. When you're in South Carolina, it's kind of Clemson or South Carolina. Clemson or USC. That's the USC we refer to in South Carolina. And then when I went out west, it was just all this Pac-10 and all of this. I'm just like, you guys are weak. This ain't football. So I became an SEC fan, and I was in law school from 2006 to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when Nick Saban was at LSU, and so I became a fan of his.
Okay.
They still college.
Fair enough.
Yeah. LSU fan. Now I'm a Bama fan. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Here's what I don't get. And this, I mean, granted, you guys have great, recruitment over there. But it's I went to Senior Bowl last year, and Alabama had, I think, 11, 12, maybe more players. I think 11 or 12 of them got drafted just in the first, or got drafted, period, and there was 6 in the first round. Yet you guys are still number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hate on my voice. I'm like, how can they have this many people drafted and still have a great team? That's not fair.
He his depth chart is ridiculous. I was sitting and talking to my boyfriend the other day, and we were watching Georgia high school football, and we were talking about some of the the 4 and 5 stars, and I'm like, yo, Nick Saban gets these kids from this state.
Man.
Play for him. He and his staff, they're just the ultimate recruiters, and I mean, part of it, I think, is, in the way you talk to kids, but another part of it is his record. If I'm a 5-star recruit, my ultimate goal is to go play in the NFL then yeah, I'm going to go play for Nick Saban because I'm going to be on TV all the time, and his program wins. And so I don't know how hard of a sell it is, to recruit all of the top players, but he definitely does a great job at it.
Well, sure he does. I mean, I think there was a stat, which I don't do too many of, that I watched, did before when they were on College Game Day. They had like 30-some appearances on College Game Day. Like, it's unheard of, the amount of time they get.
Wow.
Like, it's like, getting a Monday Night Football game. It doesn't happen all the time for most NFL teams, but they had like 30-something appearances just in College Game Day alone, which is crazy. So, and then you've got this all-star quarterback, Jalen Hurts, only a freshman. I mean, that's how I kind of felt last year. I mean, Jake Browning I love, and he's a great quarterback too. I think he's still at a level, though, that, Jalen is at, and he's only a freshman. So, so, I'm excited for my team. I think, if nothing else, we have Chris Peterson. I love him. I wasn't so much a fan during Boise State times, just that's for familial issues or reasons. But I love him for the Huskies. I know he's got had this month to maybe make some more trick plays, which he's pretty good and known for. He had his Boise State team back in 2007 had upset Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. So we're kind of hoping for like that Cinderella story. I'm hoping for it. I'm hoping for it because I was supposed. Once I heard that Washington made the Peach Bowl and the date was set for New Year's Eve, I had already made New Year's Eve plans to see the Seahawks play the shitty ass Niners for New Year's Eve. So I had almost canceled those plans to go to Atlanta and watch this game, but I was like, I can't do it. So now I'm hoping for a Cinderella story so that I can head to Tampa for the national championship.
Well, I like to support people in their causes, but I can't support you in it. I'll just say best of luck. But I think honestly, I like to see good football. So I'm hoping that it's not a blowout.
Yes.
But obviously, I guess the odds are in Alabama's favor. I just was reading some stats about how they're saying like the best college team since World War II or something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really amazing to to see what these guys are able to do week in and week out.
Right. They said that Alabama, basically, if they win Washington and win the national championship, they'll be the first 15-0 team in modern college football history. Like, it's never happened. Yeah. That's so crazy. Yeah. So we look forward to it. I know who my first text will be to should Washington pull this one off. But Cecelia, I so much appreciate you coming to the show. I know my co-host Stephanie wishes she could have been here to talk with you as well, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. But please tell our listeners how they can reach you, where they can find you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on social media, all of it, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. I'm SportyEsquire. My website is CeceliaTownes.com. Like you so graciously mentioned, Gladiathers.com is the blog, and then Live Beyond the Game is the website for my company.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Again, a real quick thank you for Cecelia Townes showing up at SportyEsquire here with us on the podcast. Really appreciate her. So go check her out. Before we end the show, I just wanted to do one little moment. So Cardinals wide receiver Michael Floyd was arrested on DUI charges Sunday night, early Monday morning in Arizona and Scottsdale. They had just got back from losing to the Dolphins in overtime on Sunday. Here's the catch. He was caught blocking an intersection because he was asleep in his car, but the foot was on his foot was on his brakes. The car wasn't moving. Cops pulled up alongside of him after he had missed about 3 different sequences of the green light, and he was caught with his DUI. So it's his second one. He got one back in college. We hope for the best, but I mean, what can you do? You get off your plane and go straight to drinking, or whether you're drinking on the plane, who knows? He says he was drinking on the team plane home, some Cabernet, but to be passed out in your own vehicle at 3 o'clock in the morning in Scottsdale, yeah, I know what you were doing. I get it. I see how that is. But yeah, not okay. There's plenty of ways to get around town these days, like Uber, Lyft, and everything else. So hopefully, I guess the NFL will see to his punishment. I guess we'll put it that way. And of course, real quick before we leave, arms of the NFL. So currently, this guy isn't playing. He was out for the rest of the season. But J.J. Watt, he's number 99. He's a defensive end for the Texans. This guy, he has got some great muscles. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to see them all year because he's been injured. But I can't wait till next season when he comes back and works it hard for the Texans. Also, number 55 for the Ravens, Terrell Suggs, who also has some cameos on, what's the football movie from HBO? I forget. Anyway, he will be, he's a linebacker for the Ravens. He has some amazing arms, too. I mean, this guy, and he's older. He's been in the league for so long, and he's got some amazing arms. And in regards to a little Throwback Thursday, a little TBT NFL arms of the NFL, we've got Steven Jackson, who used to be the running back for the Rams, did a little stint there with the Falcons, and also did about a year, I think, last year for the Patriots. So he's still definitely in shape, and he's still definitely got some arms. So anyways, just a reminder, you guys, we won't be here for the next 2 weeks. We'll be taking a little break for the holidays. I know if Steph were here, she would wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. We will catch you January 4th on the Wednesday after the New Year's. We'll be back in action. We'll be able to talk about all the bowl games that took place. We'll see how my Washington Huskies did, and we'll discuss more NFL and the playoffs. So take care. Have a good one. Thanks for checking out another great episode of Girl Chat Sports. And remember, we don't have balls, but we know how to cover them. Until next time, guys.